when we talk about the future, reminds me a Chinese sentence that says, when we look into the history, is like looking to a crystal ball on which we can see a shadow of the future. And that's why in my presentation I have divided it in three parts. One is the history and evolution, another is what is today, and another thing is about the future. So let's start about evolution. The evolution of the classroom, the evolution of the technologies, the evolution of methodologies, about our students, the evolution of our students, and the teaching process in presence and distance. About classrooms, we can say that during more than 2,500 years, short or non-evolution happens. When Socrates started to teach in Athens, he was just talking to his students. But during more than 2,000 years, only one evolution happens, the blackboard. And this blackboard introduced a new technology and a new methodology of teaching, which means talk with chalk. This purpose, this way of teaching is still used for many teachers today. But another important evolution in the end of the 20th century, the rector talking to a rector projector. And a very, let's say, recent presentation, no more than 2 decades, we start to use red projectors and talking to a wall of letters. This is exactly what you should not do. 7 lines per slide, 7 words per line, and this is what many people are using on presenting. Finally, about technology, I can say that in 70 years we have evolved from one-room computer to a small, tiny computers, thousands of times more powerful, with new technologies, new methodologies, using fantastic softwares, internet, and all of us are depending on these gadgets today. iPads, iPhones, Samsung, and many other technologies. So this is what we are facing today. In 2 decades, we have created and built up knowledge and information society, connecting cultures, civilizations in real time. More about methodology. About methodology, during the last century, it means, let's say, we start with Watson in behaviorism, Skinner, Bloom, Vygotsky, Piaget, in many other, and we evolve from behaviorism to constructivism. The theory of multi-intelligence and learning styles of Gardner in the 80s, emotional intelligence and learning process by Daniel Goldman, interactivity, interactivity and learning from neurophysiological point of view, not only from the psychological point of view, social learning and collaborative work, connectivism from George Simmons. These are enormous evolution from methodological point of view. But about our students, we can say that our students today are digital, multimodal learners. They have different styles. They ask us for multimedia contents and distance learning. These are clients that are asking us a lot of new approaches on teaching. But we are not stopping about this, about presence and distance teaching. I should say that we start to talk about distance teaching in the 19th century. And up till 1970, only correspondence courses happens. Skinner was the father of an important Pandora box after the Second World War. The second generation, it was based on open universities. And the third generation, it was in the 80s, cassette videos and TV school. But the fourth generation, it was an important step forward, e-learning. But this is a new challenge. Everything can be presented in presence or distance learning. But let's see what is e-learning. E-learning has been called computer-based learning, distributed learning, distance learning, web-based learning, online learning, internet-based learning, and as well b-learning. But let's see what is really the roots and the effective way of e-learning. I should say that the first generation of e-learning was just delivering contents and the students should learn by themselves. Very soon we realized that this was not working from the pedagogical point of view, and a conception of mixed learning, b-learning, a mix of presence and distance learning. There was, let's say, everything was asynchronous, delivering contents normally in written format, and students should study. The second generation, it starts with interactivity by Stephen Downes and O'Reilly, and this interactivity was still asynchronous interactivity. Things were delivered to the LMSs and students should use or make their interactivity through forums, wikis, chat, right chat, and many other formats, but mainly written and audio format. The technology was evolving and Bandwidth was offering possibilities of using video. Stream video was available, so it was easy to start to use virtual classrooms, video conferencing, synchronous, mobility, connectivism by George Simmons. And a new format of b-learning was showing up. It was asynchronous activities and synchronous activities. These synchronous activities can have two formats. One, it was presence, and another it was virtual. All of those can be used in synchronous format. And this is really an enormous change and an enormous evolution in the process, e-learning 3.0. Okay, now the question is, when in 2001 Rosenberg said that in the future we will have a more radical revolution than e-learning, this would be the disappearing of the E. So, just learning. We can say, according to this, that learning today is a teaching process supported in electronic media, distributed contents in multiple formats, and interactivity, web technology, asynchronous and synchronous in distance or presence teaching. This is the challenge we are facing today, using new methodologies, using new technologies in presence or distance format. This means that we teachers need to have enormous amount of new skills besides to be an expert in one scientific area. We need to have more technologies. We can say that we are living in exponential times. Our challenging is very important. But today, what is the challenge of today? We can say that the top 10 jobs in 2010 didn't exist in 2004. But more, 4 students starting 4 years of technical degree, this means that half of what they have learned in the first year of study will be outdated by the third year of our study. Technology is evolving in such a speed that we are currently preparing students for jobs that don't exist yet and using technologies that have not been invented. In order to solve problems we did not even know that they are problems yet. So this is such a tremendous, fast, exponential evolution that we really don't know, we cannot imagine what are exactly the profile of what will be the challenges of the future. The United States Department of Labor estimates that today a learner will have between 10 and 14 jobs when they will have 38 years old. This is something totally new for us and something that our grandparents could not even imagine. Many of the jobs students will have, they will not exist yet. More about the future. About the future, what I have to say about the future is this. We have to analyze the evolution. First, Socrates. After, the blackboard and talk with chalk. The retroprojector. The projector of slides. In parallel, we start distance learning in the last century. E-learning. And after, they merge by B-learning technologies and methodologies. So today we have learning in asynchronous contents distributed on demand in platforms and synchronous activities in presence or virtual format. And this is, let's say, what is an overview of the evolution and the tendency for the future. In this learning approach of knowledge transfer process, we can divide the process in two steps. One is a behaviorist, which means what teachers teach. They use didactic communication tools, and they are very important and should be very well used by the teachers. It means that we have written communication techniques, we have the narration process, visual multimedia presentations, slideshows and many other ways of doing it, not only from the technological point of view, but as well from the methodological process. Non-verbal communication, the gesture, the body language, and specific syntaxes for each element of the lexical communication, which means that writing a book is totally different from making a multimedia contents. And the second step is a constructivist approach, which means that tutoring, didactic orientation, reflexivity and interactivity are techniques that they should be used properly by teachers in order to transfer or in order the students could build their own knowledge in parallel with formative continuous assessment. And these ingredients means that teachers today, beside being an expert on a specific scientific area like history, mathematics or any other, they should be as well prepared in pedagogical skills. Otherwise, process doesn't work or doesn't work with a good quality and make or what our students need. But about the future, I have a very interesting story about the future. When television starts in my country about 60 years ago, and my father bought a television, and when he saw something wonderful called television, people inside and movies and so on, he said, in the future nobody will use any more telephones. They will have a television in one side and the other person will have a television in the other side. That is in fact today we are using lots of communication using Skypes, video conference and so on. This means that we are really, according to my father and according to the technology, living in the future. And this is what we are living today. These are the challenges. But this gives us a new approach, new models of learning and teaching, new taxonomies, and be-learning in the new format. Let's have a look and let's reflect a little bit about this. For several decades we use different models. CLE by Johnson, OLE model by Hannah, Land and Oliver, Soil by Meyer, Elementary Instructions Principles by Merrill, ARCS by John Keller. These models are developed to present contents in constructivist structural format, but to present a plan and develop e-learning courses, they were used different models. Model of Kempt, Morrison and Ross, the model ADDIE, the R2D2 by Smith and Regan, ADDIA, analysis, designing, development, implementation and assessment, a meta model integrating all of these aspects, and the RADDIA, reutilizing the contents. And it was basing in, let's say, it was just a variation of the meta model. But today we have a new challenge. From my research and the use of virtual classrooms and synchronous activities, I have developed a new model. We can call it AR e-learning 3.0, and I'm going to share my conclusions with you. Today we have as well synchronous activities which are not integrated in the previous models. So the contents distributed synchronously and asynchronously in multi-channel format, which secures the necessity of different learning styles. First point. Second point, learning based on interactivities and carry out in a constructivist perspective by online tutoring, permanently, and by collaborative active work activities, which means that students are learning by, in a behaviorist approach, by what teachers are teaching, and they are learning by themselves in a constructivist approach, integrating all the things they have at their disposal to involve and to create more things. But continuous formative assessment is as well very important for the reflection and interiorize the contents. More, apply to all education levels and teaching environments. This means that since kindergarten to post-graduation activities, these are the guidelines for new teaching models. More, interactivity and remote collaborative work is absolutely necessary and important for the quality of the learning. Teaching based on methodological and technical skills and competencies of the teachers oriented to a constructivist learning. Teacher is of course a key piece of this model. Not saying, please don't say that today students know everything. Those teachers who are saying this, it's because they really don't know. But teachers should be the guiders of this process, should be the base of the teaching process. And about taxonomies. We know that since the middle of the 20th century, several profiles of taxonomies has been developed by Bloom, Gagné, and Moore. Let's say the three areas of cognitive and affective psychomotor aspects, the different stages of skills and knowledge, and the integration of this model by Moore in the end of the 20th century. But today we are having different approaches. This is the B learning, the evolution. Blended learning in asynchronous contents distribution on demand and synchronous activities in presence or virtual environment. This is effectively a new taxonomy that should be facing and used for the teachers for the school of the future, using LMSs, using presence or virtual classrooms. And many experiences are running now about the school of the future, all over the world. All over the world we are trying new experience, but it is not exactly this type. This was the old school, but the new school is challenging. Many people are using technologies for our students from the Far East to Russia, Federation, Eastern countries, Western Europe, America, South America, and Caribbean. This is the future, and everybody is trying to teach our students and to teach themselves, our teachers. The question is, are we preparing our students to deal with huge quantities of information, changing every day and being competitive in a globalized world? I think this is really very difficult. This is an enormous challenge for all of us. But what should be the school of the future? Presence and distance, traditional courses, MOOCs, online coursewares, formal and informal teaching, create life learning habits, teaching contents, or teach how to learn, graduations, diplomas, long life learning. I should say that the School of the Future has a huge range of activities, of teaching process, and teaching environments. But Microsoft presented about 10 years ago a video on which they presented us the potential of the students versus the passion of the teachers. And I would like you to see carefully this video. It's a very short video, but it's very, very interesting. Please have a look.
We see a doctor. We see a mom and a CEO. We see a marine biologist. At Microsoft, we see the world not just as it is, but as it might someday become. We see potential. We see people unleashing their creativity, unlocking their talents, accomplishing more, and experiencing more of life than they ever thought possible. We see workers coming together, sharing information freely and openly. We see small businesses growing. Big business made agile. And companies forming partnerships. We see developers having the tools they need to create the next big thing. At Microsoft, we stand in awe of you and your potential. It's what inspires us to create software that helps you reach it. It's what inspires all we do. Because at the end of the day, the true measure of our success is not in the power of our software, but in the power it unleashes in you. Your potential, our passion. Microsoft.
The question is what to do. I think we have to convert our schools into factory of dreams, teachers into didactic communication wizards, and convert students' potential into teachers' passion. And this is one important challenge for the future. I have only one question to present to you. Are we teachers prepared for the future? I'm not going to answer this question. I would like to ask you to reflect about this, and you will give the answer to this important question. Thank you very much for your attention. I'm ready for questions.